Good morning and welcome to the Unity of Reading Sunday celebration service. Today is Sunday, November 8th. I'm Reverend Nancy Clark. First, I would like to ask for your help. We do need help to continue our program of inspiring people to do their best. If you are moved by the Unity message, by any of my messages, you can donate through the donate button that you're viewing on this video on Facebook, or you can send a check to Unity of Reading, 4443 10th Avenue in Temple, Pennsylvania, and we do appreciate any donations. Thank you. So today, our daily word for November 8th is healing. I embrace the healing flow of divine life. If my body experiences any kind of health challenge, I turn within to release all fear and all concern as I affirm that illness is not part of my true identity. I remember that wholeness is my birthright as a spiritual being. I surrender any anxiety as I fill my consciousness with healing thoughts. My mind's eye sees each cell of my body aglow with the energy of divine life. In prayer, I express appreciation for all of my body's marvelous functions. I commit to taking time to bless my body with exercise and good nutrition. I speak affirming words of truth to encourage my body's healing response. I give thanks for the healing that I know is already on its way to me. I am grateful to receive healing, and I know wholeness. And from John 10:10, I came that they might have life and have it abundantly. That was a great daily word today, healing. I think much of that is needed in our country and in our society today. Not only healing from the virus, but with everything that has transpired this last week with the election and with the current social unrest. We have to remember that we have to remember that last line, which was spoken by Jesus, I came that they might have life and have it more abundantly. I believe there have been so many lessons for learning and growth through this whole current situation, through recent times, and we need to be aware of those messages as lessons so that we can use them in a time for spiritual growth and healing, to increase our consciousness and our connection with the divine. So last week I began a series on strengthening our spiritual armor, that inner armor of protection, wisdom, and love, elevating our consciousness towards our goal, which is Christ consciousness. We are building this armor out of the concepts taught by the master teacher Jesus, as discussed in Deepak Chopra's book, The Third Jesus. The third Jesus meaning Christ consciousness, the divinity which is in all of us, something we all can achieve. Just to recap, last week I spoke of three of the concepts presented in Chopra's book. They were the following teachings of Jesus: being in the world, but not of it; as you sow, so shall you reap; and not being overcome by evil, but overcoming evil with good. I hope that you were able to incorporate some of these messages and live by them this week, and that they helped you to a place of peace and acceptance throughout all the events of this past week. This week, the first concept I want to present is, in my Father's house are many mansions. This statement of Jesus is usually interpreted in the context of the afterlife. But if you're not real familiar with the teachings of unity, I want to give you perhaps a very different interpretation this morning, but one that totally fits in perfect with the unity teachings. A very knowledgeable New Thought speaker was speaking about this passage and said that the Greek word used in the Bible is interpreted in English as mansions. However, the Aramaic word, which was the language of Jesus, is more correctly interpreted as dimensions. It is consistent with an interpretation based on quantum physics and proposed by author Greg Braden in his wonderful book, The Isaiah Effect. According to quantum physics, many outcomes for a given moment already exist. Everything already exists. Braden writes, like the Bible passage, in my house are many mansions. The house of our world is the home of many possible outcomes for the conditions that we live in our lives. The choices we make as individuals determine which mansion or quantum possibility we experience in our lives. For example, choosing forgiveness, compassion, and peace attracts already existing futures that reflect these qualities. Quantum physics suggests that by redirecting our focus, we bring a new course of events into our experience, while at the same time releasing an existing course of events that no longer serve us. Could bringing peace into our lives be as simple as a concerted, unified effort to focus upon peace as if it were already here? Ancient traditions ask us why we would make it even more difficult. We really need to contemplate that. Could the peace and unity we so desire be a part of our reality already? Could our expansion into God or Christ consciousness fully and completely be as simple as a concerted, unified effort to dwell upon the fact that it is already so? Quantum physics suggests that we will move into that mansion if we do so. So how do we move into another mansion? The how brings us to the second concept for today: ask, and it shall be given. This statement appears in Matthew 7:7, and it reads, "Ask, and it shall be given unto you. Seek, and you shall find. Knock, and it shall be opened unto you. For whoever asks believes, and whoever seeks finds, and to him who knocks the door is opened." In another phrase, Jesus told us, "Ask, and as we believe, it is given. If we believe it, we have it already, it is given." I love what Emily Cady writes about it in Lessons in Truth. The shall, as used here, does not mean in the future, but rather indicates a certainty of action of divine law. Our part is to do the asking, seeking, knocking. That is, make the demand for something good, by use of affirmations, acting as if, and by abiding in the Christ consciousness as the source of all good. Then, automatically, the promises will be fulfilled, for God's law always works. Jesus' feedings of the multitude is a great example of the concept of this, to ask. In Matthew, the scripture reads, "When it was evening, the disciples came to him and said, 'This is a lonely place, and it is getting late. Dismiss the people so that the men may go to the villages and buy food for themselves.'" Two things happened here. First, the people made it known to the disciples that they were hungry and needed food. Then the disciples relayed the information to Jesus. In other words, information about what was needed was put into words and effectively communicated. That's the definition of ask. If you want your needs fulfilled, you must make them known. This is a very important step in the creative process, but only the first step, but a very important one. Then the second step is, in the third Jesus, Chopra refers to it when he writes, "The next time you pray for something or simply desire it, go through the following steps. First, express the desired outcome to yourself clearly." We call the act of expressing the desired outcome to yourself clearly creating a mental equivalent. It is the mental, emotional picture of what it is that you want to desire in your experience. We have devised a really easy way to know what your mental equivalent is. Just ask these two questions in the already done mode. How will I feel when the prayer is answered? How will my life be better? Then get into the feeling that it is now happening and that you are seeing your life better now and feeling that way. Chopra writes some significant and meaningful words when he writes, "The purpose of taking this attitude towards prayer isn't so that you can get more than you have in the past. As with every aspect of spiritual path, the purpose of prayer is to overcome the sense of separation. In the state of unity that Jesus experienced, every thought brought a response from God. He knew that all his thoughts were prayers. In the state of separation that his followers experienced, many thoughts seemed to get no response. This represented a breakdown of communication. To restore it required a new sense of self. Jesus repeatedly teaches that you are in God and God is in you. Gradually, we can begin to experience this truth, and one of the best ways is by observing how our prayers are answered. So begin to be alert, aware, and available for how your prayers are being answered, and allow your answered prayers to be the pathway to the intimate connection with God that is your natural way of life. The last two concepts or teachings of Jesus I'm going to present today, I'm going to put together because they go together very well. They are, you must be born from above and do not worry about tomorrow. Being born from above could be interpreted or referred to as being born from a higher spiritual viewpoint. Not a viewpoint that looks down upon things, but an expanded viewpoint that sees life from a broader perspective, from a higher perspective. We all know that as you go up in a plane and look down, everything seems so much smaller. When we look from a higher perspective at our so-called problems, they begin to diminish in size, and the answer is readily available. What new higher viewpoint might Jesus be speaking of, and how could that viewpoint assist us in not worrying about tomorrow? In his essay, How to Rob Fear and Worry, Eric Butterworth answers this question. Epictetus once advised that if you are robbed, you should always remember that peace of mind is much more valuable than the article that you have been relieved of. Plato likewise taught that nothing in the affairs of man is worthy of great anxiety. Worry is like a rocking chair. It gives you something to do, but it won't get you anywhere. It is stewing within doing. It is the mountain climbing over molehills. The Bible carries many prescriptions on this topic, such as, I sought after the Lord, and he heard me, and delivered me from all my fears. This is nothing new in all of this, but it is a subject that needs frequent reiteration. The broader view, the view from above into which we must be born, which enables us to not worry about tomorrow, is the view that there is great power at our fingertips that is ready, willing, and able to respond to us. And this is not just some power, but all power, the only power. And this all power is the creative power of the universe, and it is a power for good. That is a key element. In the end, everything is good, and if it isn't good, it isn't over yet. I love the story which illustrates this concept. Two sailors ran into each other in a pub. One of the men told the other about his last voyage. After a month at sea, he said, we discovered our masts had been eaten through by termites. Almost nothing left of them. Oh, that's terrible, said the second sailor. Well, that's what I thought, the first one said. But it turned out to be good luck. As soon as we took the sails down to fix the masts, we were hit by a squall so suddenly and so hard, it would have surely blown us over if we had our sails up at the time. Ah, how lucky, exclaimed the second sailor. Well, that's what I thought. But since the sails were down, we couldn't steer ourselves, and the wind blew us into a reef. A hole in the hull was too big to fix, so we were stranded. Oh, that is bad luck indeed, replied the second sailor. That's what I thought, but we all made it to the beach alive, and expressing great gratitude we made it, we discovered a buried treasure. So how many times did you go through something like this? At the time you said, this is the worst thing that could ever happen. And as you look back on it now, you realize this was the best thing that could ever happen, because those incidences brought you into the better times. There is a saying that says, it's all good in the end, but if it isn't good, then it isn't the end. As we look in the world and events from a higher perspective, and again realize all is in divine order, no matter what the appearances, we move our consciousness into a higher dimension. We move into another mansion. But we must ask for what we want, and the way we do that is by focusing on that which we want, getting into the feeling as if it's already happening, not focusing and whining about what we do not want. Every thought, every word, and every emotion is a prayer. It's sending out energy into the universe, and it does not return void. We must trust that God's fullness and wholeness, abundance and perfection are in the middle of everything. Now, this is so easy to say when everything is going great. It's easy to be a follower of unity when life is good, but the real power of living these words of Jesus comes when things aren't so good. When, like the sailors in the story, we are blown into the reef, life looks bleak and scary. This is the time that it really counts. I will again end my message with some of the writings of Eric Butterworth from his book, Spiritual Economics. He writes, there's no question that we are facing a world in crisis. But let us look at the word crisis as the Chinese see it through the awkward process of translating it from English. They use the symbols for two words, danger and opportunity. Of course, we are facing critical times today and down the road into the future. However, we have a marvelous opportunity to usher in a new world in which people of awareness will live with that of what Thoreau calls the license of a higher order of being. While some may view the world in crisis with alarm, it is important that here and now, New Age thinkers like yourself hold to the vision of a spiritual human being who has always risen to the occasion to draw forth the wisdom and the creativity required to take the next logical steps in the progress of civilization. In other words, we are hopeful that you will achieve from this message to see that you are plugged into the universal process of growth, that you may become a vital part of the spiritualization of the structure of human consciousness. At Amherst College some years ago, a squash was planted in good soil. When it had grown to about the size of a person's head, researchers put a band of steel around it with a harness to see how much lifting power the squash had. They estimated that it might press 500 pounds in a month. it reached a pressure of 500 pounds. In 2 months, it reached 1,500 pounds, then 2,000 pounds, and they had to strengthen the bands. It finally reached a pressure of 5,000 pounds when it broke its rinds. Upon opening the squash, the researchers were amazed to find that it was a mass of fibers that had developed in an attempt to fight away the obstacle that was hindering the growth of the squash. Further investigation revealed that 80,000 feet of roots had grown, going out in all directions to help find the strength for the fibers which needed substance. This experiment with the squash revealed that, due to the very nature of life, the crisis was the opportunity for new growth. It is almost as if, because it needed added power to break the bands, it mobilized every means available to accomplish it. We see this same process at work as nature evolves. For instance, the giraffe developed a long neck because it needed to reach the edible leaves of the tall trees that grew in its natural habitat. Birds developed their amazing homing instinct because they needed it to enable them to migrate from one part of the world to another and safely return home. And when we face life with this robust faith, we can know that we will develop the keys to peace and plenty because we need them. Any crisis is an opportunity for growth. Psychologists estimate that not one person in a million is living up to the best which is in him or her. Are you? Are you making the most of your inner resources? When you ride on the subway or stand in a crowded elevator, look into the faces of the people who are around you and try to imagine what life would be like if all these people should suddenly awake and become their best possible selves. Then look in the mirror and reflect on the same thing. Can you imagine what your life would be like if you could realize your full potential? Today, I invite you to move into that mansion, the mansion that is filled with the presence and the power of God, the mansion where all of God's love and goodness resides, the mansion of realizations that we are one with the one, that we are part of the whole, and that we do affect the totality, and then it is mirrored back to us. We move into that mansion through faith in divine order. We move in it by asking, focusing our thoughts and words on what we want, not on what we don't want, and seeing from a higher perspective. Through the eyes of God, we see that the good in all people and in all situations. By not only knowing these teachings, but by living them, we draw on our inner strength, just like the squash did, to create the world that we want. And so it is. I will take these thoughts into meditation as you get comfortable in your seat. And as you breathe in, know that you're breathing in the energy of God. Every breath is God filling your cells, connecting to your inner being, connecting to God already there, giving you strength and power and wisdom. As you exhale, let go of all the worries, the fears, and feel your body and mind go into deeper relaxation. Inhale and feel the power, the love, the wisdom of God permeate every cell. Feel your connection to the One. For there is only one power in the world and in my life, God, the good, omnipotent. Feel your oneness with this God. Know that you are a drop of the great ocean of God, with all the creativity, the love, the wisdom contained in the whole. I invite you to take this time as you have let go of worry and fear and create in your mind an image of what you would like the world to be, what you would like your life to be. How does your best possible self look when you are connected, when you know who you are, when you express your divinity? Get into that feeling. What does it look like? How does it feel? How are people around you? How do you want to see the world? What does it look like? How are people acting towards one another? Can you feel the love and the peace? The peace of God that passes all understanding. For as we feel that, as we live that, we become that. And our world becomes that around us. We must be the change that we want to see. Hold fast your vision of peace, of prosperity for all, of a common oneness in our country. Not necessarily all the same ideas and the same beliefs, but acceptance, respect, community, acceptance of all beliefs, all people, all races, all genders, all sexual orientation. Feel the peace in your body. See the peace in the world. See the acceptance that you want to feel, and feel it now. For as we feel it now, we step into that dimension. For Jesus said, there are many mansions in my Father's house. He prepares the place that we go to in mind and feeling. As we sit in this feeling of our desires already achieved, accomplished, God is there preparing it, and as we open our eyes, we can step right into it. Know that we are the creators of our reality. Through our thoughts, through our prayers, through our attitudes and our beliefs, which all are prayers. It's all creative energy. As you sit in this peace, this love, this excitement and joy of your desire already fulfilled, hold fast to that. And know that you are creating a world of elevated spiritual consciousness. You are sending out love into mass consciousness that will overcome any other power. For the power of God is the only thing there is. The power of God, the power of good, the power of love will overcome any hate, any fear, any disrest. Feel these feelings of peace and love and joy throughout your body. Hold on to these for as long as you can. For the longer you maintain these feelings, this emotion, the greater creative power that it has. If a thought comes into your mind that is contrary, affirm the power of God is all there is. The power of good is all there is. For light always, always dispels the darkness. See our country, our communities, our world through the light of God. See the change happening. Feel the excitement. Feel the love, the acceptance. Feel the oneness of every human being to the oneness of the divinity of God within inside each one. See the world from above. For as we look from above, there are no separations. We see everyone as one being, as one country, as one world. Always know, no matter what, there's a higher perspective, a higher order of being. Make a commitment to always rise up and see any issue, any problem in your life or in this world, in this country, through this higher perspective. See the beauty of the world and the earth as one. And know that God works for the good. In the end, all things are good. All things are in divine order. And if it isn't good, then it's not the end. For God works in mysterious ways. As we hold on to this vision of our best selves, the vision of our best communities, everyone living to their full potential. We realize the sun is shining, the sun is coming up. A new day is dawning. See our world filled with light. See all peoples come together and uniting in the spirit of Christ consciousness. Know that no matter what appearances, you can hold on to this vision, knowing that as we ask, we shall receive. And it's our faith that makes it happen. Know that you are loved. You are a beautiful spiritual being. You are creative power. And all is well. And so it is. You may sit in meditation for a while longer. Or if you're ready, you can move your body. Take a deep breath in. Open your eyes. But when you do open your eyes, bring that peace, that joy, that feeling that all is well into this world. And know that it is done. Amen.